Live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome all the folks that are piling in the room right now. Let me get my chat window open so I can see what you guys are saying. And it is Lightroom Live. Lightroom Live. We're here. We're ready. All right. Looks like a bunch of people are coming in. I see Victoria. I see Andrew. Hey, what's up, Andrew? Let's just make sure we got everything running here. We got the recording going. Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're going to do a quick one on customizing Lightroom with your custom identity plate and watermarks. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways they can be used. Jamie Feldman in the house. What's up, Jamie? David and Habib, if I'm saying that correctly. Welcome, everyone, and welcome everyone from around the world. So, this comes up all the time, especially for new users of Lightroom Classic. They look up and they see perhaps a custom logo or your studio name, and they're like, well, how do I do that? How do I get my name up there? So let me show you exactly how that works. I'm going to switch over to my computer, and I've got Lightroom Classic CC, latest version running, and I've defaulted it back to the standard, what you would get first time install. It just simply says Adobe Photoshop Lightroom CC Classic. So this is the area called the identity plate, and this is where we're going to go ahead and make our change. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to my Lightroom menu, and we're going to work in two areas. We're going to work in identity plate setup, and then we're going to get to edit watermarks. Let's get to identity plate setup first, and it looks pretty bleak, pretty boring at this point because we don't have any options because we're just using the standard identity plate. However, if you switch it to personalized, then you will get the ability to choose either a text-based identity plate or one that's based on a graphic. So you can make it whatever you want. So if I wanted to just simply say Terry White Photography, then that's all I would have. Of course, I can pick the font that I want that in. So my font of choice for my studio name is Trojan Pro. And if, oh, hang on, let's highlight that first. Highlight it first, then switch it to Trojan Pro. And away we go. And of course, you can change the size, you can change the color, you can change anything about that you want if you just want a text-based. And again, highlight it first. Just like any other program, you make sure you highlight it before you try and make a change to it. And let's see if we can get that even bigger. There we go. Too big, but you get the idea. Let's drop it down a little bit here. We can actually even type in a size, but I think 36 will look a little bit better. And you can even make it a custom color. You can go in and start specifying, I believe, hang on, let me close this for a second. I believe you can even customize the colors of individual words. So if we go there and we go ahead and click, yeah, so I just turned Terry White into red. Irony. All right, so let's, so that's one of the ways you can do it. If your logo or your identity is just simple and you want to use text and you have a font that you like to use, you can absolutely do it that way. The other way is to use a graphic. And I prefer to use a graphic because you have more choices. You can actually put a logo in it. You can put whatever else you want in your actual identity plate. So instead of me using a text-based one, I'm just going to click the next option over here on the right, which is use a graphical identity plate. And when I use graphical identity plate, there's one already here. I'm going to go ahead and clear that one. And I'm just going to show you how we're going to create one of those from scratch. So if I pop over to Photoshop, and let's go ahead and create a new document from scratch. First thing that I would want to know is, well, how big is an identity plate? Like, how big is that area? So I had to go do a little research because apparently it changed over the years. But here's what you want to do. You want to make sure you're working in pixels. And the width can really be pretty long. It could be, you know, like I did one earlier that was 800 pixels wide. It could be 1,000 pixels wide. So really, you don't really need it to be that wide unless your name or your studio is really long. So I'm going to stick to like 400. 400 pixels wide is plenty. The main thing that you need to be concerned with is the height. This is the one that matters. The height is either 41 pixels on the Mac. I'm on a Mac, so I'll do 41, or 46 pixels on Windows. So it's either one of the two. If you're on a Mac, make it 41. If you're on Windows, make it 46. Now, I'm also going to change my background color or background contents to transparent. In other words, I want to be able to see through it. I don't want a black background. I don't want a white background. I don't want any background. I want whatever is behind the identity plate to show through. And this will be important when we use it for something else a little bit later. So just make sure you do it on transparent background, and we're going to go ahead and click Create. That will give me this empty document that's really small, but we're going to go ahead and use it. Now I've got my logo already open here. We're going to use that for a watermark in just a moment, but let's say you didn't have it open. You could place your logo right onto this. So I'm just going to use Place Embedded. And I have my logo down here as a PNG file, which means it's already transparent. And then I'm just going to go, now I know it's hard to see because it's transparent, but I'm just going to move it over to the left. We can zoom in on it a little bit. You can start to see it. It's going to look pixelated because we're zooming beyond 100%. And then I can go in and do whatever I want for the rest of the space. So for example, one of the things I might do is, well, since this actually says Terry White down here, I might use a mask. Let's just use a quick mask, and we might go ahead and just mask the name of it out because I don't need it twice. So I'm just going to go ahead and just mask it out, not erasing, just covering it up with a mask. And then I can grab my type tool, and I'm already on Trojan Pro. I'm just going to go ahead and click, and we're going to do Terry White Photography. All right, so I'll make it a little smaller so that it fits. And then I can go ahead and, of course, make the color choices that I want. So I want the Terry White to be white. And, of course, the photography to be, we're going to make this a little bit redder. And we'll just make it nice and red, bright red. Now, the only other thing is this will be fine as an identity plate. No problem. I could use this as is. The only other thing, though, is if I'm going to use it for the next thing I'm going to show you, I might want to put a drop shadow on it. Here's why. Because in Lightroom, it's just going to be on a black background, so this will show fine. But for something else we might use it for, you might put it on a white background, therefore the Terry White wouldn't actually show up. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly do just a drop shadow style effect. And drop shadow at the very bottom there. And we will not multiply, we'll just say normal. And we'll drop the spread and the size down a bit. And we can just pick it up and move it around. I just want to just give it that hint of a shadow that's behind it. Now again, that will make no difference in Lightroom because Lightroom's already on a black background, so you wouldn't even see the shadow. But it will make a difference a little bit later on. So let's go ahead and save this out now. I'm going to do a save as. First, I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file, just so I'll have it. We'll save this as TWP 2018 Identity. All right. And I'm going to also save a PNG version of it. So let's do save as one more time. And we'll switch it to PNG. And same name. And we'll just hit save. Yep. Okay. Done. All right. So now when we switch back to Lightroom, we can go find it. We can say, use a graphical identity plate, locate the file. And I'm in the wrong spot. That's why it's not there. Let's go over to my documents, Terry White Photography, and there it is. You can use the Photoshop file. You can use the PNG file. Use either one. That's not one's going to be better than the other. They're going to look the same. I'm going to use the PNG, and there it is. So now my identity plate has been applied, and it is now at the top of Lightroom, and it will be there in this catalog until I change it. So that's another thing, is that identity plates are catalog specific. So if you open up another catalog, or if you have a different catalog, you'd have to do it for that catalog as well. Or you might have something different for the next catalog. Okay, So that was how to create an identity plate. 41 pixels high for Mac, 46 pixels high for Windows, and the width is literally as wide as you think your monitor is going to be. Like, because for example, I'm on a 1920 pixel wide monitor right now, so I could go all the way over to library with it if I needed to. But if I work on a smaller resolution, then I could run into issues. So don't make it too wide, but know that you got quite a bit of width to work with. All right, so next up, let's talk about watermarks. Now, watermarks really don't protect your photo. People think, oh, if I put a watermark on it, no one can steal it. No, because watermarks, if you know how to use Photoshop, are fairly easy to remove. So watermarks aren't protection. I like to look at them more as branding. In other words, I'm branding my photo with a logo or a name or whatever. Jamie's asking, why is the height so specific? Because that's literally how much height you have to work with in this area. Because there's status messages and progress bars and things that can appear above your identity plate. So that's why the height is restricted. The width is not as restricted. That's why. All right, but anyway, back to watermarks. Watermarks are those visible things that, you know, sometimes you love them, sometimes you hate them. Usually you hate them if they're not done right, meaning they're keeping you from enjoying the photo. But think of it as branding, not so much protection. So how do you make a watermark? Again, same area. Go up to the Lightroom menu, come down to Edit Watermarks. And again, you can do one of two types of watermarks. You can do one that's just text. Whatever you type in, it will propose one automatically for you. So here's one that's just at Terry White, and that's the one I would get if I were to use that one. And I can save it as a custom name so that I would be able to choose it from export operations and in the print menu, print module from here on out. And as you can see, I've got a few different ones here for different reasons. All right, but probably just like you like the graphical identity plate, you're probably going to want to use a graphical watermark. So when you're using a text watermark, I just want to show the options before we get out of this. You've got your font, you've got your style of that font, your alignment of that, you've got the color of it. You can put a shadow on it, which is kind of cool, and that's going to be important in a few minutes. You're going to learn why that's an important option for text. But we're going to switch to graphic. And now it's just asking me, okay, it just popped up a window saying, where is the graphic you want to use as your watermark? Now I'm going to show it to you first because it's just simple. It's just my logo. But I'm going to tell you why I did a certain thing to my logo. My logo is white. But you notice it has, again, a hint of a drop shadow behind it. I don't need a drop shadow behind my logo. My logo could be just fine as white, unless I put that on a white background or a white photo. If the photo that I'm watermarking has a white background or a very light sky or something like that, then the watermark could just disappear, white on white. So that drop shadow, that little hint of a shadow, will still show up the logo on white backgrounds. And on black backgrounds or dark backgrounds, you'll never see it, so it doesn't matter. All right, so that's why I did my logo that way. All right, now let's pop over to Lightroom and let's go choose it. We're in the same folder. We're going to just choose the same one. Oh, one more thing. Someone asked this in the question or the comments before we started the stream, and they said, well, does the resolution matter for print? It does. So this is a 300 pixel per inch logo, and so it's nice and big for in case I ever do want to print my watermark on things. All right, so let's go ahead and grab it. Let's choose it. It will bring it in, and it's real tiny in the bottom of whatever photo it was you had selected. So let me cancel out of this just for 1 second. Let me switch to a photo that's easier to see it. So let me switch to that photo, for example, or maybe this photo. Switch to this photo, and let's go back to it one more time real quick. Edit watermarks, graphic. It'll ask me to choose. I'm going to go grab that same logo once again, the final two. And now we can see it in the lower left corner. Now you can grab the handles and resize it. You can pick it up, do things like that, but it's easier to control it from the Watermark Effects area of the screen. So you can pick what corner you want it in. And what's cool about this is it will keep it consistent. I like my watermarks in the lower left corner of my photos. So every time I export photos from Lightroom, they're in the lower left. But I don't want them on the edge. So notice that you've got an inset. So I can move it over to the right a little bit and move it up a little bit. And that way it's not going to get cut off, or if I have to crop it for social media for some other reason, it won't get cut off after the fact. Now, proportional. This is a very important one. That means that whatever resolution the image is, small resolution, I don't want the logo to be giant. Big resolution, I don't want the logo to be tiny. Just keep the logo proportional to the size you see it at right now for whatever resolution I export it out as. So proportional, very important. The other thing is I normally never have it at 100%. I like it kind of faint in the background, so I usually do 70%. At a minimum, like I might even go lower, but 70% opacity, that way it kind of fades it out a little bit, maybe 50%, maybe even less, but at least 70 or less. All right, now that I've done all that, oh, and I want to anchor it to that lower left corner. Now that I've done all that, I'm going to go ahead, and if you need to rotate it, you could, but I don't need to. I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I can save this preset as a new one, TWP Lightroom Live. So we'll know which one it is. All right, create, done. Now, how do you use it? We already know how to use the identity plate. We can see it. There it is. But how do I use that watermark that I just created? Well, let's say that I want to export this photo of Sting. I want to export this photo of a model that I had in the studio holding a hourglass. One's a white background, one's a dark background. Let's pick a couple more. And I want to export these photos out. All right, so how do I do that? Under the File menu, I've got an export preset already set up that's called For Web Gallery Without Copyright or With Copyright. So one's without the watermark, one's with it. But let's see how I got that set up from scratch. So I'm just going to go to Export, For Web Gallery with the watermark. So if we scroll down to the watermark area, it's just turned on and I can tell it which one to use. So the TWP Lightroom Live, that's the one we'll use. And after it's done, I want to show it in the Finder. Now everything else is what you normally do. The quality, the size, and so forth and so on. Those don't change. It's whatever size image you want. But I'm going to go ahead and say export all of those out right now. And if I wanted to save this so I don't ever have to choose it again, I can just add it as a export preset, so I would just choose it from the menu next time instead of me having to choose all these different options every time. So now we'll just do an export. Yes, I know that one's already there. You can go ahead and overwrite it. Exporting 4 more photos, and again, it's doing that in the background, and here they are. So again, if I start here, this is the one. Nope. These are the ones we just did. Okay, so spacebar. There it is in the lower left corner, lower left corner, lower left corner, lower left corner, and it's the size it is. I'd probably make it a little smaller, but you get the point. And it doesn't matter if the image is portrait or landscape, it will stay relative to that corner and that amount of inset and that size, whatever you've done to it. So now if I wanted to go back and tweak it, make it maybe a little smaller, I can go back up to Edit Watermarks, go find it, which is the one that's the TWP Live, click on it, and perhaps make it a little smaller. Now, when I do that, you see it says Edit It. So what I want to do is update the preset with the change I just made. So now it's saved with that one from now on. So now every time I want to do that, I can just simply, and here we'll pick one more photo. Here, let's pick some different photos this time. Let's pick these, and hold on. This one, and yeah, we'll pick those this time. So now I'll just use one of my presets, export with preset, for web gallery, and it just does it. No dialog box comes up. It just shows me the finished images when it's done. So there's the one. A little hard to see because of the windows, but it's there. There's that one. There's that one. Again, on the white background, because you can still see it because of the drop shadow. And that one in the grass. There it is. All right, so that is watermarks. All right, we're just about out of time, so I'm going to show you one more thing, one more use for all of this, whether it's watermarks or identity plates. You can use both in the print module. So for example, if I were to grab this photo, head over to print, and it will, you know, of course you can customize the border, the paper color, so forth and so on. But if you scroll down, you will see a choice for identity plate and you will see watermarking. So you get the ability to add your watermark even for printing or exporting as JPEGs from the print module, or using your identity plate kind of like, you know, a gallery print. And this is why the drop shadow, again, comes in handy, because if the paper color were white, that Terry White would have disappeared. So that's why we want to have that shadow just in case. It's kind of a catch-all. In other words, the logo works fine on any other color, but the drop shadow also makes it work fine on white. All right, let's do one more thing here. Zoom to fill. There we go. And now I've got my gallery print ready to go with either my identity plate, probably don't need both, my identity plate or my watermark. So, and you can have multiple identity plates that you can use in the print module. So I've seen people use identity plates as borders. You can design an identity plates are not restricted by size like the watermark was. I'm sorry. Identity plates are restricted by size if they're going to be in the upper left corner, but the actual format's not restricted by size. You can make them whatever size you want, and I've seen people do all kinds of cool, crazy things with identity plates for prints. Not for any upper left corner. That one has to be 41 or 46. But for everything else, it's fair game. You can make identity plates be, before we had a choice of paper color, people used to make black identity plates just so their prints would be on black paper, basically. It would just be a way of getting around it. So same thing for someone said, asked a question about frames, so same thing. Are those options in the print module in Photoshop 2? No, they are not, Jamie. All right, so with that said, I am out of time. This is why I love the print module in Lightroom, because it blows away the print in Photoshop. All right, so with that said, that's it. We're done. Go check out identity plates and watermarks in Lightroom Classic CC. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.